Hello and a warm welcome to my studio out here in the summer house. I'm Alan Casey and I'm an artist that loves colour pencil and pen and ink drawings. Now today, on a very hot day, it's quite often that you want to wash your dog, stick him in the bath and give him a good scrub. It could get a little bit smelly. Well, today I've got a drawing which I think you will like. It's a pen and ink drawing featuring a dog in a bath. So this lovely little image is a composite of several different photographs. The dog in the bath, and I've altered the expression on the face with Photoshop. We've got a rubber duck, got to have a rubber duck in the bath. Lots of lovely foam, suds all around him. And I've got up top, I've got a picture of my hand holding a soapy sponge. So the paper I'll be using today is a Strathmore Bristol, a plate surface, ideal for pen and ink. It's a 500 series, 100% cotton, 2-ply plate surface. And I'm going to be using the stapler pigment liner, a 0.3. It's quite a fine point. So the first thing I'm going to tackle is the dog's right foot. So I'm just going to use little circular motions, don't press too hard, and just build it up, build it in the shadows. I've done a very light touch with thin lines to show where the claws are. At the minute, I'm not going to fill in the main details, just going to fill in the darker bits as we go and slightly lighter shades as well. I'm doing a bit of dot work now on the pad. It looks a bit like the skin. So a series of little dots and just go through them. Now to increase the shadow detail in the pattern, just increase the amount of dots you do. You can see the underneath of the pad is slightly darker. And there you have it, that's the first foot done. As we progress through the drawing, it might need a bit of improvement. Unfortunately, with the permanent marker, it is permanent, so you can't remove it. So if you make a mistake, you're going to suffer for it unless you change the drawing completely. Okay, I've got two of my reference drawings. I've got my main photograph in colour and my original little line art picture which I printed out and traced over, and so that's the other foot, and we're going to put them just above for reference, and I'm going to continue with the 0.3 pen as well. And there we have it, the left hand claw. Hopefully similar to the drawing. So before I tackle the rubber duck, I've got to put in the top edge of our bar. The claws, paws, so to say, are just resting on the top edge, but we will have sort of overspill of soap. So I think roughly there, a little bit of a line with my 0.05 fineliner. So rough drawn edge, just to give us a starting point. That's to give us a slight idea of where the bath is going to be, the top end of the bath. And now the fun part of the rubber duck, with his little eyes looking up at his doggy friend having his bath. So the darkest part of the rubber duck again will be the eyes, not forgetting the highlights. So, keeping the dots fairly evenly spaced for the start off. So we're not worried at this point about all the fine detail of the shadows. So just cover the little duck with all the tiny dots. Again, we're heading for a very light greyish tone. Well, we're almost there on the first section of filling in a little duck with light grey dots. Next stage is doing some extra dots in certain areas for the shadows and the shape of the little thing. Just using a little bit of cross hatching as we go right and then left, just to fill in a little bit of shaded area. I'll leave that at that for the time being. So there we have two paws and a rubber duck and the top edge of the bar. Well, we're now going to continue and do the ear. Now for this one I've got my magnifying glass. It's a little bit awkward to see with the various lights in here in the studio to actually see my pencil drawing. So on the colour photograph we've got some black hairs, so we're going to use them. They're the deepest blacks to start with, so obviously the hairs are wet, so we'll draw them little black lines in first, and then we've got white lines there, but we don't draw the white hairs, we draw around them. So we do what we call negative drawing, and that's a technique which Mike Sibley has taught me using graphite pencils. So as you remember, I'm trying to see whether fineliner pens can be used in a similar way, and so far yes we can. So work in progress. This is the nose. Noting I've got more dots where it's darker and lighter areas where there are highlights on the actual dog's nose. It's very difficult to see where the carbon lines are that hasn't transferred very well onto this plate surface. So when I did the nose, it's slightly larger than the original. Doesn't matter, of course, because this is my own interpretation of a photograph. I'm not copying the photograph. Doesn't matter how you do it. Same as the feet. They came out slightly different to the drawing, but it doesn't matter. It's all part of the fun of being an artist and doing your own art project. So, back to the eyes. Now, a little tip. Sometimes it's difficult to work on a big drawing without putting your dirty mitts all over it. So, a nice piece of paper to cover up the drawing so you can rest your hands on it. If you want to, you can do the same with the top section. Something to weigh it down. So I've got the windows open here in the summer house, I'd like it to blow away. Now, I'm going to work not necessarily off my photograph, but off the line drawing. I quite like the line drawing picture. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to fold this in half. Fold that in half. So it's going again to the top there. Put my photograph out of the way. So I'm just going to have that just above where I'm working, so I can look at that and concentrate on the drawing. So I'm going to do it freehand, more or less, because I can't really see my graphic pencil underneath. Just basically doing tiny little dots. Just give a rough idea where the eye is. I've got a rough outline, I'll gradually build it up. And don't forget, when you look at an eye, there's lots of different reflections in an eye to the surroundings, so, and highlights as well, so it's not permanently full of black. Not completely black, should I say. Don't forget to put the nib on your pen each time you use it when you stop using it. I'm just going to change to the 0.05 fineliner, Copic marker, and I'm just going to put the pen directly upright and do some dots. This will give some lighter points in the eye itself, around the rim. Now we're going to move over to the second eye. Again, probably not 100% accurate, but it doesn't matter. And the second eye is up here. When drawing here, just make sure you follow the flow of the hair going in the right directions, otherwise it could look rather silly. Now we'll start building up some of the fur from the eyes and outwards. Remember, we're doing what the class is negative drawing, where the hairs are white or coloured in brown, but we're more or less drawing in the shadows with the ink. And hairs do go all over the place. Now this section here, just near the eye, is just where the hair starts to go on the nose. Look at the colour pencil drawing, the colour print. You've got like a little line in the middle and it all partens out and goes off and round close to the eye. So from the nose, we got hair coming out that way, and hair going out that way. A little dip in the middle. goes not far off to there to start with. I'm just going to building up this fur. Short lines, tapered at the ends like that. Gradually build it up. A little bit. Just below it. I'm disregarding my graphic drawing now, I'm just doing this freehand. I can't see the graphic drawing very well at all. curl down. A little bit bigger shading there. Give the impression of wet hair. Do little dots where its mouth is. Well, you can't actually see its mouth, it's kind of dark fur really, but it's there. So I'll just do it with different texture. And most of my drawing at the minute is focused on the actual coloured prints. Now, when I did the photo composite, I actually made the eye squint up with the water dripping on it. I thought what a good idea to have a little doggy's eye squinting. So you need to just draw it over there slightly. Make it look like it's squinting a little. that's the bottom half of the little doggy in the soup suds. I'm not very good at drawing soup suds, so I hope it looks more or less real. Either that or he's sitting in a bowl of soup. The final bit is to be done is the top section, which will be my hand with the sponge, which is on there. We'll start with the sponge. Do some rough lines. For the outline. Now we'll fill in with all the little dots. This one is a cubic multi-liner 0.5. I'm just going to try this one. To darken that little side a bit more. Texture like sponge. There we go. Build up a bit. Got a bit of highlights in the bottom of this one. Leave that little bit there. We're back to the 0.05. Got a little bit of the top here. Tapping it lightly, not very heavy at all. I don't want to damage the point of my pen or indent the paper. So it's just light dabs on here. Well, I'm happy with that. It looks to be about finished. Apart from signing. One original photograph. And one drawing. Ink drawing. I'm happy with that. I think that looks reasonably good from the first attempt. And this is the finished ink drawing. One of the most important aspects of doing any work, I believe, is make sure you put your signature. Now, being black and white line art in ink, I'm going to sign it in my 0.3 pen, Copic marker. Now, where do you do it? Well, on my case, it's the top rim of the bar with a little dog sitting, and I'm going to do it just over on the right hand side beneath his foot. It gives a little bit of space, about 2 centimetres in, either way, in case you put it in a frame, and you cover your name. I'm just going to print my name rather than actually do a proper signature. Now, if you do your own signature, you want people to copy that. So just print your name on there, people can see it in the future. Whether you put a date on there, it's entirely up to you. That's not necessary. But I'm going to do it to the bottom right hand corner, 2 centimetres in from the bottom. You can of course do it on the left hand side if you want, but majority of people always sign their art in the bottom of their artwork. That's to do. Doesn't have to be extremely neat. So the next stage of the process is to photograph your art. In this case, I'm going to leave it taped onto my backboard, and I'll put it on an easel, as you see, and I'm going to get the camera at the same angle as the drawing, close in as best I can, and take several photographs of that. Now, you may have noticed I've got these black lines which represent tiles in the background. I'm not wholly impressed with them because they are a bit too prominent. So when this image is on the computer, I'm going to do away with them. So I'll cut them out on the computer system itself. So photographing your artwork. I'm doing it inside today in the studio. Sometimes I do it outside in a sort of an overcast day, which it is today, but I've decided to do it in the studio. I've got my studio lights on, got daylight coming through the windows. I've got the picture on the easel, digital SLR camera with a 28 to 75mm lens on. I don't like to stand too close. I know the image itself isn't going to fill the full frame. It'll just be so much of a frame, and I'll cut it out digitally on the computer to do away with the tape, and then what's left will be transferred onto a different page, if you like, on the computer, which we then can print out whatever size you like. So I've got camera set on AV, autofocus, so that you have to do manual, probably easier for some people. So probably about 2 meters away from it. Hold the camera up to the same type of angle as your easel. So zoom into the picture best I can, make sure it's in focus. and I've taken about 4 images. Now, what I call bracketed images, they do slightly different exposures. That way I know I've got a reasonably good picture there. Now that time I just put on a different floodlight just above the picture, because I've noticed that the image had a little bit of shading on the top right corner. That's eliminated that. It may give me a slight colour cast, but that again can be adjusted on the computer. What I'm going to do now, I've got 8 images. I'm going to put this outside in the daylight and then take photographs of it again outside, and then we can compare the images on the computer later. Okay, I've now brought the image outside for pictures in the daylight, and we can compare the images to see what they're like with daylight and artificial light. So left it on the easel, and we now make sure we've got the camera set at the same angle as the slope of the easel and take some pictures. Well, funny enough, I think the outdoor images will come out a lot better. The white of the paper is quite white. We've got an overcast day, not too sunny. It's ideal, and it's dry. Well, here we have my finished drawing in ink. Now, what I advise you to do is, if you're going to do the same type of drawing, do your black and white ink, take photographs of it. You can then do prints, any art gives or anything you like into black and white image. Now, what I advise you as artists as well, take note of all the time that you spend on your drawing, because if you do sell prints or your original art, that will give you some idea of how to price it. So this particular ink drawing, I know a lot of people take many hours to do theirs. Mine has actually taken me 9 hours to do that drawing. 9 hours over different days. I can't sit there and spend 9 hours in a day doing the drawings. It's done over several days. So that's only took me 9 hours, which I'm very proud of. It's not perfect, but then it's fantasy art really, isn't it, in a way.